The golden California sun painted the luxurious ocean view resort in shades of amber as Ethan cross-stepped out of his black Tesla. His tailored charcoal suit remained perfectly pressed despite the 12-hour board meeting that had just concluded. At 32, Ethan commanded respect in every room he entered. His tech empire, Crosstech Solutions, had revolutionized cloud computing and made him one of the youngest billionaires in Silicon Valley. The ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and jasmine as Ethan walked through the resort's marble lobby. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing reflections across polished floors where wealthy guests moved like elegant shadows. This weekend getaway was supposed to be his reward after successfully acquiring a rival company worth $800 million. His phone buzzed constantly with congratulatory messages from investors and board members. The acquisition would expand Crosstech into European markets, securing his position as the industry leader. Yet something felt hollow about the victory. Success had become routine, predictable, almost boring. The wrong keycard the concierge handed Ethan a sleek black keycard with an apologetic smile. "Mr. Cross, your penthouse suite awaits. The champagne and dinner you requested have been arranged." Ethan barely acknowledged the man as he headed toward the elevator. His assistant had handled all the arrangements, and frankly, he just wanted solitude. The penthouse level was quiet, decorated with modern art and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. He found what he assumed was his suite and slid the keycard. The lock clicked green, and he pushed open the heavy wooden door. The room was dimly lit by warm table lamps, creating an intimate atmosphere he hadn't expected. Soft music played from somewhere in the suite, and the air carried hints of vanilla and cinnamon. "It's strange," he muttered, loosening his silver tie. "I didn't request mood lighting." The discovery as Ethan moved deeper into the suite, he heard gentle voices coming from the living area. His footsteps slowed on the plush carpet. Through an archway, he could see into a cozy sitting room where someone was reading aloud in a melodic, familiar voice. "The brave knight promised to always protect the kingdom," the voice continued softly. Ethan froze. That voice transported him instantly back 7 years to college lecture halls and late-night study sessions. His heart began racing as he stepped closer to the archway, staying hidden in the shadows. There, sitting cross-legged on a cream-colored sofa, was Luna Martinez. Her long dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and she wore a simple lavender sundress that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. She looked almost exactly as he remembered, though there was something more mature about her face, a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. But what made Ethan's world tilt completely? Off its axis were the two children curled up beside her. The twins 6-year-olds listened intently to their mother's storytelling. The little girl had Luna's dark hair, but startling green eyes that Ethan recognized immediately from his own mirror. The boy possessed the same distinctive jawline that ran in the Cross family, along with those unmistakable emerald eyes. Emma, as Luna called the girl, interrupted the story with a giggle. "Mama, did the knight have a castle with swimming pools like this place?" "Maybe even bigger pools," Luna replied, kissing the top of Emma's head. "What do you think, Noah?" Noah, clearly the more serious twin, considered this carefully. "I think he had pools and maybe helicopters too. Rich people always have helicopters in movies." Ethan's hands trembled as he gripped the doorframe. The children not only resembled him physically, but Noah's thoughtful manner and Emma's bright curiosity reminded him of his own childhood personality traits. The mathematical probability of such strong resemblance without biological connection was virtually impossible. The confrontation, Luna continued reading, completely unaware of the figure watching from the shadows. The domestic scene felt surreal. To Ethan, who had spent years in boardrooms and corner offices, here was warmth, laughter, and unconditional love. Everything his high-powered lifestyle lacked. Unable to remain hidden any longer, Ethan stepped into the light. Luna's voice stopped, mid-sentence. The storybook slipped from her hands as she looked up, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and finally, protective anger. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, instinctively pulling both children closer to her. Emma and Noah looked between. Their mother and the tall stranger with matching confused expressions. They had never seen anyone make their confident, strong mother look so shaken. Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. 7 years of practiced business presentations and public speaking meant nothing in this moment. He was looking at what appeared to be his children, children he never knew existed. "I asked you a question," Luna said more firmly, her voice steady. Despite her racing heart, "How did you get in here?" The realization dawns the keycard, Ethan managed, holding up the black plastic rectangle with shaking fingers. "There must have been a mistake at the front desk." "I thought this was my suite." Luna's eyes narrowed as she studied his face, searching for signs of deception. "Your suite? You expect me to believe you just happened to end up at the exact resort? Where we're staying? With a key to our room?" The twins watched this exchange with growing concern. Emma scooted closer to her mother while Noah stood up protectively, despite being barely 3 feet tall. "Are you bothering our mama?" Noah asked. With surprising boldness, for a 6-year-old dot, Ethan looked down at the little boy and felt his heart crack open. The child's protective stance, the way he held his shoulders, even his tone of voice. It was like looking at a miniature version of himself at that age. "No, sweetheart," Luna said quickly, smoothing Noah's hair. "This man was just leaving." Ethan couldn't move. His gaze kept shifting between the twins, cataloging every familiar feature. Emma had his late grandmother's smile, while Noah possessed the Cross family's distinctive left-handed gestures that Ethan had unconsciously noticed him making daunt questions without answers. "Luna," Ethan said her name like a prayer, his voice rough. With emotion, or they don't. Luna's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare ask me that question. Not after 7 years of silence." Emma tugged on her mother's dress.
"Mama, who is this man? Do you know him?"
Luna's composure wavered as she looked at her daughter's innocent face. How could she explain that this was the man she had loved with every fiber of her being? The man whose sudden disappearance had shattered her world, the father her children had never known existed. "He's someone I used to know a long time ago," Luna finally answered, her voice carefully controlled. Ethan felt each word like a physical blow. Used to know reduced their entire relationship to past tense, as if their love had never mattered, as if the future they had planned together was meaningless. The weight of truths, the silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths and suppressed emotions. The twins sensed the tension and moved closer to their mother, forming a protective barrier that excluded Ethan completely. He realized that he was the outsider here, the intruder in their perfect family moment. These children had grown up without him, learned to walk and talk and laugh without his presence. Luna had carried the entire burden of parenthood alone, while he built his empire, completely oblivious to their existence. "I should go," Ethan said, quietly backing toward the door. But he couldn't resist one more look at the twins, memorizing their faces, burning this moment into his memory. As he reached for the door handle, Noah surprised everyone by speaking up again. "Mister, you have the same eyes as me and Emma." The simple observation from a 6-year-old carried more weight than any DNA test could. Luna's face went pale, and Ethan's hand froze on the door handle. Emma looked back and forth between Ethan and her brother, her young mind processing this new information. "He does, Mama. His eyes are just like ours." The moment everything changed, Luna stood up slowly, her protective instincts warring with the undeniable truth staring her in the face. She had spent 6 years answering the twins' questions about their father with carefully crafted half-truths. Now here he was, and the resemblance was so strong that even the children noticed immediately. Ethan turned back around, his business training finally kicking in as he tried to approach this situation logically. "Luna, we need to talk, privately." "There's nothing to discuss," she replied, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. "I think there's everything to discuss," Ethan said gently. "Please, give me 5 minutes to explain why I left, why I never came back, why I never knew about them." Twins looked between the adults, sensing that something important was happening, but not understanding what. Emma yawned, leaning against her mother's side. While Noah continued studying Ethan with curious intensity, Luna realized that this conversation was inevitable, whether she wanted it or not. The truth had a way of surfacing eventually, and perhaps it was better to face it now rather than spend more years running from the past. "Emma, Noah, why don't you go brush your teeth and get ready for bed?" she said softly. "I need to talk to this gentleman for a few minutes." As the children reluctantly headed toward their bedroom, chattering quietly between themselves about the strange man with their eyes. Luna turned to face the father of her children, the man who held the power to either complete their family or destroy the carefully constructed life she had built from the ashes of her broken heart. Luna closed the bedroom door softly after tucking Emma and Noah into their beds. The twins had peppered her with questions about the nice man with our eyes, but she had managed to deflect with promises of explanations tomorrow. Now she faced Ethan across the dimly lit living room, 7 years of hurt and confusion swirling. Between them, Ethan stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his silhouette outlined against the moonlit ocean. He had removed his suit jacket, and his white shirt was wrinkled from the emotional encounter. When he turned to face her, Luna saw vulnerability in his expression that she had never witnessed during their college years. "You left without a word?" Luna said, her voice barely above a whisper. "One day you were talking about our future together, and the next day you were gone. Your apartment was empty, your phone disconnected, your friends said they didn't know where you were." Ethan's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "My father was dying." The simple statement hung in the air like a confession. Luna felt her carefully constructed anger waver, placed by confusion and the faintest hint of sympathy. "The Cross family crisis 7 years ago. Crosstech was just my father's small software company," Ethan continued, moving away from the window to face her. "Directly, James Cross built it from nothing, worked 18-hour days for 20 years. It was his life, his legacy, everything he wanted to pass down to me." Luna remembered James Cross from the few times she had met him during college. He was a stern man who viewed Ethan's relationship with an art major as a distraction from business studies. He had made it clear that Luna wasn't suitable for someone destined to run a technology empire. In our senior year, Dad was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. Ethan's voice cracked slightly. "The doctors gave him 6 months to live. 6 months to transfer ownership of the company, teach me everything he knew, and prepare me to take over a business I barely understood." Luna sank onto the cream-colored sofa where she had been reading to the twins just an hour earlier. "You never told me he was sick." "I couldn't," Ethan admitted, running his hands through his dark hair. "Dad made me promise not to tell anyone. He said showing weakness would destroy investor confidence and kill the company before I could save it. The cancer was spreading fast, and he was determined to spend his final months preparing me instead of fighting the disease. The impossible choice." Ethan began pacing across the plush carpet, his movements restless and pained. "Do you remember that weekend when I was supposed to meet your parents for the first time? When I called and said I had a family emergency?" Luna nodded silently. "What?" She had been so excited to introduce Ethan to her family, to show them the man she planned to marry after graduation. The sudden cancellation had hurt, but she had trusted him when he promised to explain later. "Dad collapsed that Friday night," Ethan continued. "Internal bleeding, emergency surgery, complications that nearly killed him. I spent the entire weekend in the hospital, watching machines keep him alive while he whispered business strategies and client information between morphine doses." The image of 22-year-old Ethan sitting alone in a hospital corridor, shouldering that enormous burden without support, made Luna's heart ache despite her lingering anger. "When he recovered enough to come home, he presented me with an ultimatum." Ethan's voice grew bitter. "Take over the company immediately and dedicate my life to saving it, or watch everything he built crumble into bankruptcy." There was no middle ground, no compromise, no time for personal relationships. The sacrifice. Luna stood up abruptly, her brown eyes flashing with renewed anger. "So you chose the company over me? Over us?" "I chose survival," Ethan shot back, his own frustration finally breaking through his controlled exterior. Crosstech was hemorrhaging money, losing major clients, facing 3 different lawsuits. If I didn't act immediately, 200 employees would lose their jobs, and my father's life work would disappear. He moved closer to her, his green eyes intense with the memory of that impossible decision. Dad's treatment was costing a fortune, and the company insurance was the only thing keeping him alive. I couldn't let him die knowing I had destroyed everything he sacrificed for. Luna wrapped her arms around herself, trying to process this information. "But you could have told me. I would have understood, would have waited, would have helped you through it, would you?" Ethan asked quietly. "Would you have really wanted to spend the next 5 years watching me work 100-hour weeks? Taking business calls during dinner? Missing every important moment because the company was always in crisis? The lonely years the question hung between. Then because Luna wasn't sure she could answer honestly, 22, she had dreams of traveling Europe together. Lazy Sunday mornings, romantic dinners, and building a life based on love and shared adventures. The reality Ethan described sounded like a prison sentence. My father lived for 2 more years, Ethan continued, his voice growing softer. 2 years of chemotherapy, experimental treatments, and false hopes, spent every day either at his bedside or in boardrooms, trying to save a company that seemed determined to fail. Luna found herself imagining those years, picturing Ethan as a young man thrust into responsibilities he never wanted, watching his father slowly die while fighting to preserve his legacy. When Dad finally passed, I realized I had become someone I didn't recognize, Ethan admitted. The company was stable, profitable even, but I had lost myself in the process. I had pushed away everyone who mattered, including you. You never tried to contact me, Luna said, though her voice lacked its earlier accusation. I did try, Ethan revealed, pulling out his phone and scrolling through old messages. I sent dozens of emails, left voicemails, even hired a private investigator to find your new address when you moved. The missed connections. Luna's heart stopped. What? Ethan showed her his phone screen displaying a long list of attempted communications dating back 6 years. Every email bounced back. Your old phone number was disconnected. The investigator found an address in Portland, but when I sent letters, they were returned as undeliverable. Luna's mind raced as she remembered that chaotic period. After discovering her pregnancy, she had changed her email address to avoid painful reminders of their relationship. She had moved 3 times in 2 years, struggling to find affordable housing as a single mother. The letters probably went to her old apartment complex, returned to sender before she ever knew they existed. I thought you wanted nothing to do with me, Ethan said sadly. When I finally worked up the courage to visit your college apartment, your roommate said you had graduated and moved away without leaving a forwarding address. The cruel irony wasn't lost on either of them. While Luna was struggling through pregnancy and early motherhood, believing Ethan had abandoned her heartlessly, he was actually trying desperately to reconnect, believing she had chosen to disappear from his life. Luna's story. Luna sank back onto the sofa, her legs suddenly weak. I found out I was pregnant 3 months after you left. Ethan's sharp intake of breath was audible across the room. Months. I kept hoping you would come back, that you would call, that there was some explanation. Luna's voice trembled with remembered pain. I was working at that little gallery downtown, barely making enough money to pay rent, and suddenly I was responsible for 2 babies. 2, Ethan whispered. The ultrasound showed twins when I was 4 months along, Luna continued. Emma and Noah. I had no family support, no health insurance, no idea how I was going to manage alone. The struggle. Luna's voice grew stronger as she recounted those difficult years. I worked 3 jobs during my pregnancy. Gallery assistant during the day, waitressing at night, freelance graphic design whenever I could find clients. I saved every penny for doctor visits and baby supplies. Ethan sat down heavily in the chair across from her, his face pale as he absorbed the magnitude of what she had endured alone. I gave birth at County General Hospital, Luna continued. 23 hours of labor, with only a student nurse for support, because I couldn't afford a private room or continuous care. When Emma and Noah were finally born, I held them both and promised they would never lack for love, even if they only had one parent. Luna, I'm so sorry. Ethan's voice was thick with emotion. If I had known you would have what? Luna interrupted. Abandoned your dying father? Destroyed his company. Sacrificed everything he worked for. The impossible truth. The question revealed the cruel impossibility of their situation. Even if they had communicated 7 years ago, even if Luna had known about James Cross's illness and Ethan's obligations, what solution could they have found? How could a young man torn between a dying father and an unexpected pregnancy have made everyone happy? I used to imagine what I would say if I ever saw you again, Luna admitted. I had entire conversations planned, accusations to hurl, anger to unleash. But now, sitting here, knowing what you were going through, she trailed off, unable to finish the thought because forgiveness felt like betraying the years of struggle she had endured alone. What are they like? Ethan asked softly. Emma and Noah? What are my children like? The possessive pronoun sent a chill through Luna. They're smart, curious kind. Emma loves art like I do, spends hours drawing elaborate fantasy worlds. Noah is more analytical, always building things, taking apart electronics to see how they work. Ethan smiled despite his emotional turmoil. He gets that from my side of the family. I was the same way as a kid. They ask about their father sometimes, Luna continued. I told them he was someone I loved very much who had to go away for important work. They've never pushed for more details, but I know they wonder. The present momenta, soft sound from the bedroom made both adults freeze. Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. Mama, I can't sleep. Noah is snoring, and I keep thinking about the man with our eyes. Luna glanced at Ethan, who was staring at his daughter with wonder and heartbreak. Emma noticed his intense gaze and walked closer, her 6-year-old boldness overriding any shyness. Are you really our daddy? She asked, with the directness only children possess. The question hit both adults like a physical blow. Luna's carefully constructed world of half-truths and protective lies crumbled in the face of her daughter's innocent inquiry. Ethan knelt down to Emma's eye level, his voice gentle but honest. I think I might be, sweetheart. Your mama and I are trying to figure that out. Emma studied his face seriously, then reached out to touch his cheek with her small hand. You look sad. Are you sad because you missed us growing up? Simple question, asked without malice or judgment. Broke something inside Ethan. Tears he had held back for 7 years finally spilled over as he nodded silently. It's okay, Emma said with the wisdom of a child who had learned early to comfort others. You're here now. It's what matters. As Luna watched her daughter comfort the father she had never known, she realized that the anger she had carried for 7 years was finally beginning to transform into something else. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the possibility of understanding. The past couldn't be changed, but perhaps, just perhaps, it could find a way to build a different future. Dawn broke over Ocean View Resort with unusual drama, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Luna woke on the living room sofa where she had spent the night, unwilling to leave Emma and Noah alone with their newfound knowledge about Ethan. She found him still sitting in the chair across from her, his expensive suit wrinkled beyond repair, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it countless times. He hadn't slept either. Good morning, Luna said softly, sitting up and smoothing her sundress. Ethan looked at her with red-rimmed eyes that held a mixture of hope and uncertainty. I've been thinking all night about what happens next. Before Luna could respond, the sound of small feet pattering across hardwood announced the twins' arrival. Emma and Noah burst into the living room with the energy that only 6-year-olds possess, stopping short when they saw Ethan still there. You stayed, Noah observed, with satisfaction. I told Emma you would stay. Emma climbed onto the sofa next to her mother, studying Ethan with curious eyes. Are you going to have breakfast with us? Emma makes really good pancakes, but we usually just get room service here because the kitchen is tiny. The first family moment, Ethan looked to Luna for permission, his expression hopeful but respectful of her boundaries. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. I'd love to have breakfast with you, Ethan said, his voice warm with genuine emotion. Though I should probably shower and change clothes first. Can use our extra bathroom, Emma offered generously. Mama packed daddy-sized shampoo by mistake anyway. The casual reference to daddy-sized anything made both adults freeze. Luna had unconsciously been preparing for this moment for years, even in the smallest details of their lives. An hour later, Ethan emerged from the bathroom wearing a resort-provided polo shirt and khakis, looking more relaxed than Luna had ever seen him. His usual corporate armor was gone, placed by something softer and more approachable. Noah had set the table with careful precision, while Emma arranged fresh flowers from the resort's garden in a water-glass centerpiece. The scene was so naturally domestic that Luna felt her heart clench with longing for what might have been, getting to know each other over breakfast. Ethan discovered that Emma inherited his grandmother's artistic talent along with her love of storytelling. She regaled him with elaborate tales about the adventures of Princess Butterfly and Sir Dragonfly, complete with dramatic gestures and sound effects. Noah, meanwhile, demonstrated his engineering prowess by building a complex structure out of breakfast items, while explaining the physics of load distribution to anyone who would listen. He built a working volcano for the school science fair, Luna said proudly. It was so sophisticated that the judges thought I had helped him, but it was all Noah's design. Ethan beamed with paternal pride, then caught himself. At him, he had no right to feel proud of accomplishments he had played no part in achieving. That's incredible, buddy, he said to Noah. I used to love building things when I was your age too. Really? Noah's eyes lit up. What kind of things? Robots mostly. I once built a robot dog that could fetch tennis balls and perform tricks. Both twins were instantly fascinated, bombarding Ethan with questions about his childhood inventions. In current technology projects, Luna watched the easy rapport developing between father and children with mixed emotions. The media stormed their peaceful morning was shattered when Luna's phone began ringing incessantly. Text messages flooded in from friends and acquaintances, all asking variations of the same question. Maria Santos, Luna's best friend since art school, was the first to get through. Luna, please tell me you're not at some resort with Ethan Cross. Maria's voice was frantic through the phone speaker. How did you? Luna began. It's all over social media. Someone posted photos of you and the twins at the resort restaurant last night, and now everyone's connecting the dots. The resemblance between those children and Ethan Cross is trending. On 3 different platforms, Luna's blood ran cold. She had been so focused on the emotional reunion that she hadn't considered the public implications of Ethan's presence in their lives. Ethan was already on his own phone, speaking in clipped tones to what sounded like a crisis management team. I don't care what the stock price is doing. My priority is protecting these children from media attention. The paparazzi arrives by noon. Telephoto lenses were visible from their resort balcony. Photographers had positioned themselves on public beaches and neighboring properties, all hoping to capture the first clear images of the Crosstech CEO with his alleged secret family. Emma and Emma were initially excited by the attention, waving at the distant cameras until Luna explained that the photographers were not friendly fans, but intrusive strangers who wanted to invade their privacy. Can we still go swimming? Emma asked, disappointed by the sudden restriction to their suite. Not right now, sweetheart, Luna said. Closing the curtains against the persistent camera flashes, Ethan finished another tense phone call and turned to face the family that had suddenly become the center of a media circus. I'm going to hold a press conference, he announced. This afternoon, before the speculation gets any worse. Absolutely not, Luna said firmly. I won't let you turn my children into a public spectacle. Our children, Ethan corrected gently. And I'm not going to exploit them. I'm going to protect them by controlling the narrative before someone else does it for us. The press conference, despite Luna's objections, Ethan's crisis management team had already arranged a media briefing in the resort's conference center. News vans lined the coastal highway, and reporters from entertainment and business publications crowded into the elegant space overlooking the Pacific. Luna watched from a private viewing room with the twins, her heart pounding as Ethan took the podium. He looked every inch the powerful CEO in his perfectly tailored navy suit, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands as he gripped the microphone. Thank you all for coming, Ethan began, his voice steady and authoritative. I'm here to address the speculation surrounding my personal life, and to make something very clear. The room fell silent, cameras focused intently on his face. 7 years ago, I made the most difficult decision of my life. I left the woman I loved to care for my dying father and save my family's company. That decision cost me everything that truly mattered. Luna felt tears spring to her eyes as Ethan's voice grew thick with emotion. Yesterday, I discovered that my absence had even greater consequences than I knew. The woman I left behind, Luna Martinez, was raising my children alone. While I built an empire I thought was more important than love. The public declaration. Ethan paused, looking directly into the camera that would broadcast his words around the world. Emma and Noah Martinez are my children. I have missed 6 years of their lives, and I will spend the rest of mine making up for that absence if their mother will allow me. The reporters erupted with questions, but Ethan raised his hand for silence. I am not here to discuss custody arrangements or business implications. I am here to say publicly what I should have said 7 years ago. Luna Martinez is the love of my life, and I will do whatever it takes to earn her forgiveness and become the father my children deserve? In the viewing room, Emma tugged on her mother's dress. Mama, why are you crying? Are you sad? Luna wiped her tears and pulled both children close. No, sweetheart. Sometimes people cry when they're happy too. Noah, ever the analyst, studied his mother's face carefully. Are you happy that our daddy came back? The question forced Luna to confront her own feelings honestly. I provide a my years of hurt and anger. Despite the complications his return would bring to their carefully ordered life, the answer was surprisingly clear. Yes, she whispered. I think I am. The reunion that evening after the media frenzy had died down and the paparazzi had been escorted from resort property by security. The family found themselves alone together on the private beach behind their suite. Emma and Noah built sandcastles with the focused intensity of master architects, while Luna and Ethan walked along the water's edge, their feet bare in the warm sand. I meant what I said at the press conference, Ethan said quietly. It's about spending the rest of my life making up for lost time. Luna stopped walking and turned to face him. What does that look like, Ethan? You have $1 billion company to run, board meetings, international travel. How does that fit with bedtime stories and soccer practice and school plays? I've been asking myself the same question, Ethan admitted. Crosstech is successful. Enough now to run without my constant supervision. I can delegate more. Work from home offices. Bring you and the children with me when I do need to travel. And what about us? Luna asked, gesturing between them. What are we to each other now? Co-parents? Former lovers trying to be friends? I need to know what you're expecting. The love that survived Ethan stepped closer, his green eyes intense in the fading sunlight. I'm expecting nothing and hoping for everything. No, I have no right to ask. For your love again, after what I put you through. But Luna, what I felt for you 7 years ago, what I feel for you now, it never went away. Luna studied his face, searching for signs of the ambition-driven young man who had left her behind. Instead, she saw someone who had been humbled by loss, matured by responsibility, and transformed by the discovery of fatherhood. I loved you so much it nearly destroyed me when you left, she said honestly. I spent years learning how to be whole without you. I'm not sure I'm ready to risk that kind of pain again. Then don't, Ethan said simply. Don't risk anything. Let me prove that I've changed, that my priorities are different now. Let me show you and the children that we can build something better than what we lost. It's a new beginning, as if summoned. By their parents' emotional conversation, Emma and Noah ran over with sandy hands and bright smiles. Look what we built, Emma announced proudly, pointing to an elaborate sand sculpture that resembled a castle with modern architectural elements. It has a moat for protection and solar panels for clean energy, Noah explained seriously. A castle for the future, Ethan laughed, the sound rich and genuine. It's perfect. A castle where a family could live happily ever after. Emma grabbed his hand with her sandy fingers. Will you help us build the inside rooms tomorrow? It needs a kitchen and bedrooms and an art studio for me and a workshop for Noah. If your mother says it's okay, Ethan said, looking to Luna for permission. Luna looked at her children's hopeful faces, then at Ethan's expression of cautious optimism. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges they would need to navigate carefully. But for the first time in 7 years, she felt hope blooming in her chest. I think that sounds like a wonderful plan, she said softly. The promise is the sun set over the Pacific. Painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson, the family of 4 walked back toward their suite hand in hand. Emma chattered about her castle designs, while Noah planned the engineering specifications. Luna and Ethan exchanged glances over their children's heads, both thinking about the long road ahead. They had lost 7 years, but they had found each other again. They had been broken apart by circumstances beyond their control, but they had survived separately and could perhaps thrive together. Love had brought them back together, but it would take time, patience, and commitment to build the family they all deserved. That night, as Luna tucked Emma and Noah into bed, Emma asked the question that had been on her mind all day. Mama, is Daddy going to stay with us forever now? Luna smoothed her daughter's dark hair and chose her words carefully. Daddy loves us very much, and he wants to be part of our family. We're going to take it one day at a time and see how we can all be happy together. Good, Emma said sleepily. I like having a daddy, and I think you're happier when he's here. From the mouths of babes, Luna thought as she kissed her daughter goodnight. Epilogue. 6 months later, the Crosstech headquarters building gleamed in the California sunshine. But the real warmth came from the top-floor executive suite, where family. Photos now decorated. Ethan's desk alongside business awards and industry recognitions. Luna had moved her art studio to a space connected to Ethan's home office, allowing them to work near each other while maintaining their individual careers. Her paintings, inspired by themes of loss, redemption, and hope, had gained critical acclaim and were selling in galleries across the country. Emma and Noah had adjusted to their new life with the resilience of children. Though they still sometimes tested the boundaries of their expanded family, Noah had developed a habit of calling Ethan with technical questions during important board meetings, while Emma insisted that all her school art projects required Daddy's engineering advice. The media attention had eventually died down, replaced by other celebrity scandals and business news. The family had learned to navigate public interest while protecting their private moments. On this particular Friday evening, as Luna watched Ethan help Noah with a robotics project while Emma painted a portrait of their forever family, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Love had been lost and found again. Trust had been broken and slowly rebuilt. A family had been separated by circumstances and reunited by fate. They were not the same people they had been 7 years ago. And their love was not the same either. It was deeper now, tested by hardship, strengthened by forgiveness, and enriched by the presence of two remarkable children who had grown up believing in the power of love even when they had never seen it. Modeled as Ethan looked up from the robotics project and smiled at her across the room, Luna realized that sometimes the best stories are not about perfect love that conquers all obstacles, but about imperfect people who choose to keep loving despite the obstacles. Their story had begun with a wrong turn that led to the right discovery. It continued with the daily choice to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of their past, and it would endure as long as they remembered that love. Like the castle Emma and Noah had built in the sand, required constant care, creative vision, and the unwavering belief that some things are worth protecting forever. The end.